I'm going to call the PCC
Recording in
Governing
progress.
Board study session in session.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And Madam Chair, we have first up a presentation on our financial structure and budget overview by Dr. Dave B. So, Dave?
Chancellor Lambert, colleagues and guests, it's my pleasure to sort of give you an outline of the budget process, the financial structure of the college, sort of as a follow-up to the earlier orientation that we had, but also to set the stage for how the budget is going to come together for fiscal year 24 in the next few months. So that's really what the purpose of the discussion is today. Importantly, this is an introduction. It is okay if you don't absorb everything. There's going to be a much more in-depth study session in February, which then leads into when some really important decisions start to happen in March. But it happens soon, which is why I'm here talking to you tonight. Okay. So the college's budget is comprised of revenues and expenditures. We're essentially a nonprofit government entity. You think about our revenues and expenses have to match. That is basically how the structure works. And we'll talk more about how the state forms and how the formality works. But the basic first takeaway is you try and make sure that your expenditures are in line with the revenues that you expect to get. We're a nonprofit entity. We follow GASB reporting standards, which means that we do fund-based accounting. Might be a little confusing from a for-profit standpoint, but basically what that is that you have different fund pockets that are tied to the revenues that you get, and the expenses then become aligned with those revenues that you get. Let me back it up and explain it from the standpoint of the easiest one from that standpoint to think of is restricted fund, is funds that are restricted for purpose, whether it's the federal government is our biggest one that gives money specifically for financial aid. It can only be used for financial aid. So it stays in that fund. It gets expensed out of that fund. The primary funds are the general fund, designated fund, restricted fund, capital fund, debt service fund. And I feel like I'm missing one, but those are, and auxiliary funds. Those are, and in terms of the ones that are really important, general fund, designated fund, restricted are the ones that really to pay attention to. Capital would be right after that. Auxiliary fund for us is services and expenses and revenues that we get that are, and it's called auxiliary because they're proximal to what the college's mission is, but they aren't at the center of the college's mission. So if you have gate receipts from athletics, it would be auxiliary revenue. If you had dorms, your dorm revenue would be considered an auxiliary. Books for us, it's bookstore revenue. So revenue that we get as a commission from our bookstore contract. I'm going to just go through these real quick. This is just a headline of what's coming. We're going to talk today a little bit about expenditure, a little more about expenditure limitation because we touched on it earlier. Budget management, stewardship, and then the process that we use to develop the budget, because it doesn't happen at once. It happens through a series of conversations and a series of decisions that primarily happen in the spring. Okay, the number one most important takeaway is the budget sets the maximum amount the college is allowed to spend. That's just the top line. Really take away one thing from today. The most important thing is that when the college develops the budget, and we go out to the taxpayers and we go out to the community, we are saying, here is the absolute most we can spend. We cannot go above that. Legally, we were bound to not go above that. Now, why that's important is because there's projections built into it, and we have to plan for contingencies. We have to plan for things like, well, what if enrollment grows? And you have to add classes like we were talking about earlier. So we have reserves that are put in that we would only spend on the occasion of enrollment ticked up or we had a crisis of some sort. But it's why if you look at the budget, and the budget is in the neighborhood of, I think it's $360 million this year, and then you looked at your financial statement from last year and you go, there's a big difference between what you actually spent and what the budget is. And that's because you have the capacity to do things in a given year that you may not in any given year, but you need to be able to if something comes through. That was particularly important when COVID happened and the federal support was coming in. We didn't know how much we were going to get in, but we had to sort of bank the ability to spend the money so that if the federal aid came in, we would be able to spend it. So that's why there's extra capacity versus what you'd say, okay, yeah, you hold my arm behind my back and you say, how much are we going to spend this next year? And it'll be much closer to what's in the financial statement than what's in the budget. However, in the budget, it's like, this is the plan, this is what our priorities are, and we set some of these things like, for example, the capital fund, which funds like a building. We might put money in the capital budget to pay for construction. Even though it takes some time for the actual expenses to happen, we want to have that money up front if it happens a little faster than we're expecting, and so we don't get stuck. Okay, the other thing that's important on this is we have certain statutes that we have to follow. There are certain things that are sort of burdensome processes that happen. Most of this is in June. We're required to take the information to the taxpayers, to our community, before we take the budget to the board for adoption. So in May, what we do is we take a preliminary budget and we say, does this look generally okay with you? Do you support this? So we can take this out to the taxpayers and show the taxpayers what the budget looks like so that they can then have a public hearing and then be able to give comments if they have concerns or if they want to make comments related to the budget. So that's part of the budget adoption process. So we have to plan for that, and it's spelled out in statute to follow a certain way. We have a certain format that we have to fill out the budget in according to the state statutes, et cetera. And so there's certain things that we have to do, and then there are certain things that we do because it's the way the college does. And so let me do a comparison. When I was talking about the different funds, I said there's a general fund and then the designated fund. From the state's perspective, that is one and the same. They don't care between the two. To them, it's general fund. Because what the designated fund means is that the college has decided to, for one reason or another, separate some things out in order to track them differently. It may be that the board has said, hey, we want to make sure that the athletics is a standalone operation. Now, I mentioned athletics, not to be confusing here, but I said the gate revenue was auxiliary. But the athletic operations, maybe you want to have that separate. Or course fees that students pay that cover field trip expenses or cover certain licenses that they need to do as part of the class. Those things we want to keep separate from the general fund so they don't get commingled. So it's just a way to sort of keep them and designate them as separate. Again, the state doesn't care. For us, we talk about a general fund and designated fund as two separate things just so that we keep those things separate. Cost center budgets that we do where we want things to sort of be self-supporting are going to be located in the designated fund. Like course fees are supposed to be, like the expenses that you get related to course fees are supposed to be offset by the revenues that the students pay, right? You don't want the students paying more than what they're getting because it's supposed to be a direct thing. The other piece that's important, and this is also important from an accreditation standpoint, is that we have to be able to show evidence that our budget process and how we allocate funds is tied to the college's mission and the strategic priorities. And so we are often talking when we do the budget development with the board to make, sort of show a list of here are the priorities that we're working on this year, here's how it's aligned with the strategic plan, so that we can then, when the HLC asks for that evidence and documentation, we're able to show here's how these things are linked. Okay, let's talk a little bit specifically about the budget. I mentioned $363 million in the current year. That's the all funds budget. That's if you put all of those different things that I was talking about together. This is a slide that shows the pie of the different revenues. So this gets at one of the questions that was asked earlier. So as you can see, the big blue section on the right is property tax revenue. That's our biggest single source of revenue. Then you get grants, contracts, and financial aid. Financial aid is big, but it doesn't really affect the college. Most of the financial aid money, or the financial aid money, is a pass-through to students. It comes to the college, they apply for financial aid, it comes to the college, it offsets the tuition they may owe, and then any remainder that they get, whether it's a Pell Grant or whether it's a loan, that remainder after tuition is a check that goes out to students. So that helps defray their living expenses, book expenses, things like that. So that amount of money is sort of, yeah, it's there, but it's really has a very specific purpose. It doesn't actually help our operations at all. It just is a flow through. I mean, it helps because it makes it affordable for students to come to the college. It's critically important for that, but it doesn't offset the operating expenses. The next one down in terms of importance is tuition and fees. And then you have this big piece that's called college equity. That's a little bit confusing. College equity is when we were talking earlier about reserves and using reserve balance. That's what college equity is. And so we have a very large piece of the pie in the current year's budget is that. That's because we're finishing up our revenue bonds project, so there's money set aside that's in our fund balance that's actually outside of even the reserve that I talked about earlier. We have money that's set aside for construction projects, and we have all these construction projects that are planned that will happen over the course of the next few years. And right now, and it gets indicated that it's using college equity because we built up money and we're paying down sort of the savings account, if you will, to pay for that. But that's, if you look back like 10 years, it would not look like this at all. That yellow piece of the pie would be pretty small. And then lastly, state aid and then other revenue. You see, unfortunately, they look fairly inconsequential. They are important, but they are not a very big part of the pie. Tuition, property taxes. And when I get into the general and designated funds, when I talk about the operations of the college, it becomes even more apparent. Let's just go ahead and, so on the expense side, again, this slide is all funds, so this includes all those big capital projects that I was talking about and includes reserves in case there are contingencies, things like that come up. So you see the blue is all the different personnel expenses at the college. The gray are operational expenses, so those are contractual commitments, travel expenses, other operating expenses. Most of those things are contractual commitments like IT expenses, IT licenses, and utilities expenses, things like that. They're not very discretionary in reality. They're things that, basics things that we need to have things go forward on an annual basis. When I get to the general fund, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. Debt service, the college has revenue bonds that we're paying down, and we have a small amount of operating leases that I mentioned at the board meeting, the last board meeting, where for some capital equipment that we may or may not be thinking about paying down those leases. So it's a small amount of leases, but we do have a little bit of debt outside of the revenue bonds. Okay, I talked about the fund types already. This is the combination, if you look at what you would generally consider our operating budget. This is the budget that when we are going to talk in the next few months about putting together the budget, at least 90% of it is going to be talking about this. So this is what the general education expenses are, the personnel expenses of most people at the college, and then again, like these operating expenses, the contractual commitments that I talked about. Looking at these pies, you see that then you get to the point where it's tuition and fees and property tax. College equity shows up here. Again, if you look 10 years ago, this also would be small. That's because it's using college equity, some of those reserves that at this point are not located in the capital fund, but they're getting transferred over to the capital fund for those capital projects. So it's in the course of this annual cycle, the money will be transferred from the general fund to the capital fund for those projects. Again, normally that would be a small part of the pie in terms of revenues. So you're basically talking about property tax, tuition and fees, and then you see tiny bits and pieces of other things. Investment income that we talked about earlier would be in here. And then a little bit of state aid is considered general designated fund, but some of that is considered restricted because there's a specific purpose for that. It's useful for us because it offsets normal expenses that we have. So if it's designated for STEM and workforce development, we have lots of STEM and workforce development expenses, so the funding that comes in that has that restriction on it can be used for what is normal expense for us. Okay, on the right-hand side are the expenditures for the year. Particularly if you take out that transfer in the reserves, if you just pretend that the green isn't there. Because again, the reserves are, a lot of the time we don't even spend that money. It's set there for contingent purposes. It's called a reserve because it hasn't been designated for purpose. So it could be used for personnel, it could be used for an equipment purpose, it could be used to offset some unknown contingent event. But it can't be categorized with these other categories at this point. So it's set aside and it says, the board, by the way, the board does have a contingent reserve of $3 million every year in case some unexpected event happened. Knocking on Formica, it has not been used at any point in the time that I've been here, and hopefully that will continue to be the case. But anyway, that's the kind of thing that we have money set aside, or the capacity to spend money if something should arise that was a big event that we didn't plan for or didn't expect. So there are contingent plans that are out there. The most important thing to look at with this is if you took out those, particularly if you just took out the transfers, let's just make this simple. So you take out the $39 million of transfer, again, that's stuff that's going to the capital fund, and you recast it. What you'd be looking at is operations would be about 25% of the budget, and personnel would be like 65% of the budget. In other words, the large majority of our operating expenses are personnel. That is not unusual. It is something, though, that you don't want it to be too much dependent, and you don't want to get too much of your budget to be spent on personnel because it makes you inflexible, and it means that you don't have money that you need to spend on other things, like some of these operational things, contractual obligations for IT system enhancements, things like that. So you have to be careful about that personnel. The Community College of San Francisco got into trouble because too much of their budget was put into personnel. And that means that they were really not able to adapt to some of the changing needs that they had and some of the things that popped up. So it's just something to track, something we have metrics that we track on an annual basis. We'll be sharing those with the board so that I have under the metrics section of what I showed, there is a series of slides that on the upper right-hand corner has arrows, just to acclimate you, and we'll share this again with you, so don't worry, you don't need to remember it, but the arrow logic is the arrows are up, sideways, or down, red, yellow, green. The idea with it is if it's green, it's a good measure for the college. If it's yellow, it's like, it's something we have to watch out for, and if it's red, it's really not where we want it to be. It's something we have to really watch out for and start moving on. The arrows are signs of like, what is the trend on this? So if you had a red going down, it means that it's something we have as a concern and it's getting worse. Green going up is like, this is a groovy measure. We have examples of both. The college overall is in strong financial position. I'll show you a chart that shows that clearer than anything. We're in good financial position, but we have a number of metrics that are concerns. Everything that's related to enrollment. So we have measures that are expenditure per student or personnel per student. All of those measures are not healthy measures because our enrollment has dropped so much over time and we haven't reduced those expenditures or those personnel lines aligned or akin to how much the enrollment has declined. If enrollment grows and we make some progress on those measures, then those will start, my little personal way to say, is this good or bad? Those will start to look better. So the takeaway is that, yes?
So looking at the transfers and the reserves, that's that pie, that circle on the right, that's all the money we have.
The circle on the right are the budgeted expenditures for the current year.
But that's all the money.
No, it doesn't spend down, no.
So-
We still have reserves that are set aside.
So there's
That-
reserves that aren't on there.
Correct.
So
Yes.
we would consider this transfer and reserves sort of our encumbered money?
Yeah, that would be a good way to, operating reserves or encumbered reserves.
So there's still another pot.
Yes, correct.
And if it's not in the budget, it can't be spent the
Correct.
next year.
Correct. It's set aside and is not, yeah, right, because we have a capacity and we can't go above that capacity.
So if there was
we
an
couldn't
emergency, we could not spend those reserves.
spend. If there was an emergency, we still have capacity to spend probably enough to handle any emergency that happened. Let me walk you through it.
So there's a difference between our budget and our capacity.
There is, the budget is the capacity. Those are the same on an annual basis. There is also other money that is not included in the capacity document. What if there was a big contingent event, some really bad thing happened? There would be a series of things that happened that you would drop these expenses, you would cut some of these discretionary expenses so that those drop down, and then you would have plenty of money to handle a contingent event.
So we would have additional cash that could be inserted in there.
Yes.
But we
Yes.
do not increase the capacity,
Right.
expenditure
At a
capacity.
certain point, you could have that happen, but it is essentially, it is essentially not possible. We have enough capacity built in that it could handle any normal contingency or abnormal contingency.
So what's the number for the reserves?
You want me to I'll shoot ahead.
No.
Okay.
that's coming.
Well, no, that's fine. So this is, and I mentioned earlier, the reserves that the board has a policy that says that in order to be a fiscally prudent, smart organization, we want to ensure that the college has enough money on hand, reserves, and this is, so don't think budget, think this is in the bank money. The college has enough money in the bank to be able to operate for essentially 9 months at normal operations. So what this chart is showing you is this is our investments. So these are the, like savings account, like I referenced earlier. These are our savings accounts all added up. The colors are cash and cash equivalents. Again, that's the stuff that we can get a hold of very, very quickly. There's short-term investments, which is not hard, and you can liquidate them, you just may have to pay a little bit to do that. And then the longer terms are more like the 3 to 5 year bonds. So things would be, short-term would be more like 1 month to 1 month, I think it's 1 month duration to like 2 years. Average would be around a year. So they're maturing off relatively, like regularly. Anyway, so this is money that we have, right? This is above everything else, money that we essentially have in our savings account. The red dot there is the reserve that we want to make sure we keep an eye on that target. That would be worth 9 months of normal operations in a given year. So we have enough money in the bank and savings if no other revenue came in. So now let's talk about what that means in terms of a real emergency, like something really bad happens. And this is why it's all theoretical. Say something really bad happened. Don't even want to speculate. Something bad. No one's paying tuition anymore. No property taxes coming in. No money is coming in from the federal government. We are on our own. This would enable us, we would have enough money in our accounts and our money available to operate as normal for 9 months. So it's a very conservative amount of money that we have, that we keep set aside.
So an example would be if we went into a deep depression and people weren't paying their property taxes, we would have enough cash to make up the difference.
To keep operating for a long time. Yes. Yes, that's exactly the takeaway. So that's one component of it, but again, that sort of is on the side of the budget. It's sort of that's operations and financial management.
So Dave, will you talk a little bit about the significance of why you have that 75% reserve beyond what you said? Because the legislature also looks at what we have in the bank. Right. Can you talk about?
Yeah, so there are two other components.
So the next question would be, can they sweep it?
Great question. Boy, this is going off. This is not so much related to the budget, but this is great. These are great. No, these are great. These are great financial questions. Okay, so I'll start with, so the statute says that for a college to be, I can't remember exactly how it's said, but it basically says that in order to be a college, you have to be able to operate for 9 months. That's what Lee's referencing. We also use that as a good measure because there are other components that if we have something that keeps a good reserve on hand, it has other effects that are really critical. The HLC looks at our financial ratios, and if you don't have money in reserves of a decent type, the HLC will start questioning whether you actually have the ability to properly operate. On top of that, credit agencies look at that. So we get credit ratings. Moody's and Fitch's, for example, regularly do credit ratings of the college because of our revenue bonds. So they look at that, and if you don't have a good amount of money on hand in reserves, and you don't have good policies to maintain reserves, you will have a lousy credit rating, and then it's harder to borrow money, et cetera. So you get into trouble multiple ways, right? You potentially could get in trouble with the state legislature. You would get in trouble with the HLC. You'd have to show how are you going to get back to being financially responsible, and then you also then couldn't borrow money. At least you couldn't borrow it at any reasonable rate because you'd be kind of in junk status. So that one measure sort of ensures that the college is in good standing with all of those key measures. The other thing that it does is it helps us make sure that we go, once we get above that threshold, so you notice that we are above that dotted line, that dot. What that is saying is, okay, board, let's think about how do we take those reserves and reinvest them back into the college so that we don't have to increase tuition to build a new building, or we don't have to do X, Y, or Z. Let's spend down some of the savings we have, but not too much, right? Let's keep in a really responsible place, but know that we have some money set aside that would enable us to do that. So we have a couple of capital projects. You remember the equity piece of pie is pretty big, right? So building the Center of Excellence for Health and doing some other capital upgrades that we're doing are all coming out of that part of the reserves section. Now, if we finish the year in a positive way, it's just going to add more money to that, so it'll offset that. So it's an ever flow. It's a flow that happens multiple years running that you just keep tracking. That's why it's good to see it. How has this grown over time? To look back where it was dipping down there, that was when the college did two things. We built the building at Northwest, the science building, so we cash funded that building. So we paid for it out of our reserves. We also did a couple of renovations. One at West Campus, there was a sports facility, the FSS, I think it's FSS, that area. We did a renovation there, and then we paid down the outstanding debt that we had. We had a lease purchase obligation with the cooperative that was related to the Northwest Campus, and we paid off that lease. So we basically temporarily deficit spend. We spent down the net on a couple of years. That's why it sort of dips down. And then since then, we're back into better, healthy operations. But that was a plan. That wasn't a mistake that happened.
So can I just make 2 points about this, going back to the sweeping? This helps with the sweeping issue because we can show that we do have a use for that account, and we have evidence that we have used it for other purposes. So that's point number one. Point number two is this is one-time money. So once it's spent, it's spent. So it's tempting to think, oh, we'll use that for ongoing operational purposes, but in reality, it's not really going to buy you that long-term operational commitment. So just being mindful about that.
And then to get to the question about can the state sweep it, I think that's probably a legal question, but back then, so back in fiscal year 09 is when the budget started getting reduced by the state. That's when they started cutting us severely. There were definitely discussions that we were hearing that they were looking at the reserves that different colleges had. I don't think it would resort to that, and I think that there's a legal challenge because we are legally separate. However, that's where getting to what Chancellor Lambert just mentioned, having a responsible plan, showing that we're obligating some of those for future capital projects, which we do in the state budget forms. We have it reserved. It's sort of, there's a line that is shown that says for future capital needs or for other things. We have a line that's not, so it's not in the budget, it's outside of the budget, but it's a line that basically says, but we're planning to spend it. So don't think you can come get it. I think it would be a legal challenge, but on the other hand, I wouldn't want to test it. Now, what they did do is they knew that those reserves existed. They knew that Maricopa had a very large reserve. And so when they cut the funding that went to Maricopa and Pima, that was definitely in their mindset. Like, it was pretty clear to me that they knew that Maricopa and Pima, Maricopa in particular, had some reserves on hand. I think they realized they couldn't just grab it because they were talking about doing that with K-12s. So then they did the next best thing, which is, okay, well, we're not going to provide any operating funding for you. So you'll have to eat it, basically. Eat it over time. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. That's a really good point, though, Lee. Thanks for that. Okay, so back to this. So again, the big takeaway today is a large proportion of our operating budget is personnel. On an ongoing basis, that is also when personnel expects annual increases, and with our most recent class comp adjustment, here's a key element that we're going to have to talk about in the budget, is to align the class comp structure to market. The way that it's set up is it assumes that people will be at the midpoint of what their market basis comparison position is after an average number of 8 years. So 8 years of experience in a position, you should be at market average is essentially what that's saying. Okay, that kind of makes sense, right? It's sort of intuitive. Well, if someone is hired in and they're hired in at the minimum of the grade, they're below that 8-year point. Well, what we have built in now is a class comp structure that for every year of experience, up to, at this point, we have caps at step 12, people will move up in the scale. So it's sort of a built-in obligation to move people up based on their years of experience and additional value that they now have, right? They're more experienced, they know their jobs better, they're more valuable to the college. That ongoing obligation is probably in the neighborhood of $5 million a year. So we now have to figure out how to sustain that from a revenue standpoint to the tune of about $5 million. Again, I'm going to keep it simple. In February, we're going to get into the numbers, but I want to just sort of give you okay, let's think this through. Okay, now, looking on our left-hand side, okay, so we've got about $5 million just on personnel that we at least want to be able to do every year. On the left-hand side, okay, what revenues are going to sustain that $5 million? Year-over-year changes. So property tax, the way it works, is it's sort of a combination of 2+ things. The first thing is, if there is growth in new property in Pima County, you get all of the tax dollars from that new property. Okay, so I always like to think of it as like, picture a street that has 4 houses on it, and someone builds a 5th house. As soon as that 5th house is built, now those people pay to us. Whereas for those 4 existing houses, the way it works for them is that year over year, if the board doesn't go through a truth and taxation process, their taxes year over year stay flat. The board has the ability to increase the tax levy by 2% a year. So say that example that I just talked about, say that value of the house, they're paying $200 a year. What that means is for that house that existed, for those 4 existing houses, if the board approves that 2% tax levy increase, that means that they're paying 2% more than they were the year before, all other things being equal. There are other variables, but all other things being equal. So that increases it from $200 plus 2%, so that's plus $4. So it's $204 for their tax bill. The new house now is paying $200. The old house is going from $200 to $204. So it's a small increase for the existing properties, a big change for the new, but that's new, right? So the college gets all of that new growth money. That we have to project it. We'll get that number in a matter of weeks. That number is probably in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. So the board doesn't have to do anything. The college doesn't have to do anything. That's just for our serving a bigger population of people, essentially population in terms of properties. So think in terms of this. So I said $5 million on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we have about $1.5 million. And then between the growth of 207 money, which is the money coming in for the Smart and Safe Arizona, the marijuana, legalized marijuana money, and the growth in investment earnings, think that that's probably $1.5 million growth year over year for those two things. So between those two things, property tax growth and then the 207 money and investment earnings plus $3 million. So left-hand side, easy to say, $3 million, right-hand side, negative $5 million. So we're going to have the conversation about, okay, how do we approach that? Because, and the answer is, okay, well, do we look at a tuition increase? The board can increase the levy by 2% a year, and it can go all the way up to what's called the levy maximum. The levy maximum is what you started plus 2% every year. So if you don't do 2% every year, you still retain the ability to go all the way to that point. We have reserved money in the levy max, and so last year we increased the levy by 4%. We have another 4% this coming year. So that's another, we have additional tax capacity that we can tap into. So we'll talk more, again, I don't want to overwhelm you. We'll talk more about that in February, what that means and what that would look like. But I don't want to freak you out that like, oh, okay, we have new commitments or we have ongoing commitments of at least $5 million and you're telling me we only have $3 million. Why did I get on this board? There are answers to that and there are solutions to that, but that's sort of a good starting point to at least kind of noodle in your head a little bit.
So back to the 75% cap, whatever you call that. Each of those bars is $20 million, and we're well over that 75% mark. So, I mean, we don't necessarily have to balance that on a tuition increase. There are other options.
So that gets to what Leah was saying, that what you want to ensure is that you create a budget that is sustained. The revenues, the normal operating revenues that you get are offsetting the normal operating expenses. What happens, yes, you theoretically can do what you're doing, but what you're doing is you're deficit spending, and you're taking what Leah was referring to as one-time money, and you're basically obligating that into the future, and it's not a strong, solid, smart financial, it's not sustainable.
But there are other things the college could do too, right? We could look at some of those expenses that we currently have and decide where we could trim off maybe non-essentials or
Yes.
Monies that don't actually help impact education in the best way.
Yeah, so reducing expenses is the other way to stay within the means, yes. And that will be part of the conversation. A lot of what the college is trying to really focus on historically is reallocating resources. So as you identify that you need more money in one area, what can we do less of? What do we not need to do as much so we can shift those resources over? And continuing to do that as a college is a good way to also, that doesn't net to zero, but it's how you start doing things, how you do things differently, or new things, new initiatives, without totally adding, is the reallocating the currently existing money.
I have a question, Suze, and forgive me if I misunderstood you, so maybe I'll start with clarifying that you said during the period of enrollment declines, the college hasn't really done anything to reduce personnel, or at least not proportionally. Is that, did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I said not commensurate to. We have, yes. We actually went through a period of time pre-COVID that we actually went through because of expenditure limitation, which is coming, sadly, sorry. Because of expenditure limitation, we were in a position where we absolutely had to reduce expenses. And we did reduce expenditures very significantly and effectively for the period of 3 years. We had a 3-year plan and reduced more than 200 positions over that period of time. But when I was saying the reductions that I was just talking about, so since COVID, the enrollment dropped dramatically, and we didn't turn around and lay people off. We maintained the staffing resources at a flat level. That's really what I was saying. So we have done it in the past where we reduced over time, but not consistent and not in the same proportions as the enrollment declines have happened.
So are you, I mean, as part of this budgeting into the future, like, are you, it could be for either of you, are you looking at, like, given where the enrollment is now, or maybe projecting enrollment, maybe great if it went up, but, you know, like at some point there's like a right sizing, right? Where it's like, you know, this is the amount of students we actually have and what do we need to serve them? Like, is that happening?
Yeah, go ahead, Lee.
So we're developing a 3-year plan that's kind of to what your point is for that purpose. Because I want to separate out the expenditure limit from just running an effective operation based on what you're there to do. So if we have less students, obviously we don't need what we currently have to service them. Even though we may have the revenue to do that, is that good operational practice to do that? Now, I'll use an example from the past here. So when I first came on board, one of the questions I asked the HLC is, why has Pima been struggling for so long with accreditation? Well, one of the issues they pointed out to me was, you're accredited as a single college. However, you've been operating as if you were 6 separate colleges. And because of that siloing effect, you're having problems because we look at you as one, we're looking for standard systems and processes, but you have 6 different ones. So when you take that into account, in our earlier 3-year plan, as well as some other things before that, as you saw, we went from 6 college campus presidents down to 1. We used to have VPs at each campus. Well, we reduced that down significantly, as well as deans. So I think keeping the two things separate. Yes, we may have the revenue, but is that the best way to use it when your operations doesn't require it? So we're constantly keeping that in mind.
And I know we're getting to the end of my time here. So we talked about expenditure limitation earlier. We'll talk about it more. It isn't our most pervasive problem. It is something that you're going to be hearing about because it is other colleges' biggest problem. Because of Prop 481, we have a good amount of capacity now to work through our issue. So now, whereas a few years ago, it drove us. We did not have a choice. We had to reduce over the course of time to hit where we knew we were going to be with expenditure limitation. Now the issue is, okay, let's right size the college. Let's align us properly to the size of that is sufficient to provide really strong educational service to the community, but is also responsible and is, we're good that we would be good stewards of public funds that way. So that's what the right sizing is going to be. And that's why if you've seen some of the earlier presentations talking about staffing ratios, it's not, again, and I said this earlier, it's not that we're saying, thou shalt be 102 positions. It is, okay, when we're at 200 and it's kind of saying, the measure's saying we should be closer to 100, let's move ourselves closer to the 100. That's how we've been approaching it, and that's what we'll be talking about with that development of the 3-year plan in the coming months, and sort of getting guidance and direction from the board on that as well.
And to that point, this is why we need your input. Because if you're telling us, no, go ahead and keep spending at that level and don't reduce your current staffing, we need to know that. But if you're like, no, I think you need to make sure that you're running efficiently and to the actual students you're in service to, well, that's a different conversation. And that's a tough conversation because that means you are right-sizing. But we need to know how you feel about all of that because that affects our planning work internally. This slide, and I'm not going to talk much about this, other than this is sort of a very simple way to think about expenditure limitation. Expenditure limitation is, it's sort of like you have the budget, you have revenues and expense. That's reality. That's like how we live our normal lives. Then you have this expenditure limitation, which is this sort of overarching lens that you also have to make sure you fall within those rules. Again, it's not our biggest problem. It is something that we'll be talking a lot about, and Lee and I will be helping at the state level to make sure that the other colleges, in their response to address their expenditure limitation problems, that we
guide them so that it doesn't have an adverse effect on Pima. Again, what 481 did was a huge benefit in terms of providing the capacity we need to properly manage this college. And others are sort of going, okay, now we're in the same position that Pima was in 4 years ago. And again, that's a lot of because of the COVID enrollment declines. That sudden drop had a pretty big effect. Just so that I can say one thing about this is that if you see on the right-hand side, tuition and fees are outside. Remember that earlier I said the purpose of expenditure limitation is to control taxes. The expenditure limitation doesn't care if you charge private school tuition to our students. What would happen is we would have an expenditure limit, but if we funded it completely out of a gigantic tuition charge, we would not have an EL problem, right? We would have a limit, but we would have $0 expensed against it because the tuition would fund everything at the college. It's a little bit quirky, but the idea is, remember, it's about controlling taxes. That's the, again, big takeaway. It's about controlling taxes and the growth in property taxes. Okay, I talked about this earlier, so I think I can go through this relatively quickly. Again, we have parameters and board policies that govern how we manage and that we are prudent stewards as public funds, that we're responsible in terms of how we budget, and that we have good reserve structures in place. Again, not only to make sure that we have healthy reserves like we talked about, but that they're also that we have money readily available if a crisis happened tomorrow. We would have cash available if we needed it, but it's also prudent for us to make sure that we're also taking advantage of the money that we have on hand and investing it wisely. So that's what that 4.07 is about, that. Making sure you have a reserve and then sort of dictating that you invest it as wisely as we can. Okay, I think that gets through the key things. Okay, so timeline. I mentioned earlier, March is going to be critical because we're going to be, and we'll have a study session in February. March is critical because that's when we set tuition rates for next year. We do that in March because the class schedules open for people to enroll for fall soon after that March meeting. So the purpose is we want to have the tuition set. We're not required to set it that early. We set it that early so that we don't change tuition on students and have to say, yeah, you enrolled early, we charged you X, now we have to charge you X plus 5. So the idea is set tuition as early at that March meeting. We'll talk about taxes at the same time because, again, that's how it fits into the whole, how do you balance these things. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be setting the benefit plan structures. The good news is there shouldn't be any dramatic changes for benefit plan structures this coming year. There's a little bit of cost increase that we know about for our medical plan, but it's not anything the college can't absorb sort of within the budget, and I'll talk more closely about that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, May is when we give the preliminary budget. We talk about specific capital projects that we would like to do going forward, and get the approval from the board to go out to the taxpayers. And then we put notices in the newspaper and then have the public meeting in June and formally set to adopt the budget for next year in June. Okay, I got through a lot. I know there was a lot. Don't feel like you needed to memorize or hear all of it. I think I hammered home the things that I really want you to take away. We'll be talking in February at the study session more clearly about some specific numbers. And with that, I'll ask if the board has any more questions for me.
I just have a timeline related. I mean, it's related to that timeline you said. So, Chancellor, you were just saying a minute ago that you were looking or needed some direction from us in terms of that strategic approach to, like, when along this timeline do you need us to have that conversation so that you can put together or your team can put together whatever you need?
So if you go back to our discussion during the retreat, we talked about priorities. And if I recall correctly, I talked about, like, there's 3 things that the board must absolutely do. One is the whole overarching accreditation oversight, and then the other one was this. And then the third one being the board's monitoring piece. So why I said that was we're going to have these discussions in study sessions between now and then, and it's in those study sessions where we get that insight from you. So the question is only, do you want that at every study session that we're talking about these different points along the way, or are you comfortable, well, we can wait till the February study session to talk about tuition, and then we'll skip the April study session and then come back and pick it up after May or whatever, how you want to do it, right? But I would suggest that every study session we talk about this, especially since it's all new in terms of how we do things, and that way we know all along the way where you're thinking, and then you get a sense from us how we might suggest different options. But that's going to take up time and bandwidth that takes away from maybe addressing some other things you might have an interest in. But it's up to you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you for your patience today. It's been a lot of stuff thrown at you, so looking forward to continuing the conversation in coming months. Thanks.
Thank you, David.
So I'd like to invite Libby Howell up and with Joseph, and we're going to talk about our upcoming trip to Washington, D.C. And so we want to prepare you on the issues that are likely to be discussed and that we're going to discuss with the members, as well as some logistics, so you kind of have a sense of what to expect from that perspective. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Libby.
Good afternoon. So I'm Libby Howell. I'm the Executive Director of Media, Community, and Government Relations for the college. This is my colleague, Joseph Mays. Joseph is somewhat new to the college. He started in October, but he has lots of experience in government relations. He is a member of the Arizona Bar. He is a former school teacher, and he worked in Washington, D.C. extensively. He worked for the Obama administration, for Congressman Grijalva, and for the Department of Ed. So you'll be hearing a lot from him because he's going to be your fearless leader on this trip because of his extensive experience in Washington. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the overview of what the trip is about, and then I'll turn it over to Joseph. And yes, we've given you homework. This trip is interesting from a bunch of different directions. It is a conference. There are wonderful sessions that are sponsored as part of the conference, educational sessions helping you to be better board members, to tell you what's going on in the Washington scene, and I really encourage you to attend those functions. There will be, luncheons and dinners and all the stuff that you expect at a convention. It also is the National Congressional Summit for Community Colleges, and for that, ACCT works in partnership with AACC. So the Association of Community College Trustees is your trade organization, if you will. It's specifically directed to governing board members and how to help them do their job better and to give them the kind of information that they need. The American Association of Community Colleges are the college's trade organization, and those two organizations work closely together. They both have large lobbying staffs, and so we try to coordinate what we're interested in. We give them feedback about what our issues are. They tell us what's possible, and they work very closely with our Pima's own federal lobbyist, whom I believe Board Member Gonzalez has met before, but you'll get to meet Tracy Tucker when you get there, and she really is a fine lobbyist for the college. Excellent reputation on the Hill, very knowledgeable. They have a consultant that they work with who's a former Department of Ed expert, and so she brings a lot to the plate. So she and Joseph will be helping guide you through our meetings with the members on the Hill. Our purpose in doing this visit is to position Pima as a thought leader on the national scene in terms of community colleges, and also to keep our members of Congress informed on what's going on here. For example, a lot of the elected officials in Congress don't realize that shrinking enrollments at the college level is a national issue because of the declining birth rate. They may not realize that here in Pima County, we have a declining high school graduation rate. which affects the community colleges. So this is a good opportunity for us to bring those issues to them, but it's also a good opportunity to brag, if you will, about our solutions, to talk about the dynamic programs that are going on here at the college, and to help them understand how those pieces of legislation that they might be discussing could impact us here on the ground. The other kind of fun thing about this trip is we always bring students. And as much as I'd like to think that Joseph and I have an important voice, I'm here to tell you, all they care about is talking to the students. They want to know their stories. They want to hear about their struggles. They want to hear about what works for them, what hasn't worked, because it keeps what we do real to them. And we have 3 really fine students who are going this year, and Joseph will tell you more about that. So we've put together a booklet for you that will give you information. Joseph's going to tell you about that. The one section I really want to emphasize that you take a look at is the one that I've marked with asterisks about our talking points, because that gives you kind of in the weeds information that might be helpful to you. And the other thing I want to mention before I turn it over to Joseph is some of these meetings will take place with members of Congress, and some of them will take place with their staff. Please don't be disappointed if you're talking to a staff member, because, I'm sorry, they make the world go round. They're the folks who really continually can keep us in touch with our elected official and can be so helpful to us. Some of the meetings we may need to divide because some of those offices are pretty small. We have a large delegation this year, and we'll make sure that one group has Tracy, one group has Joseph, so that you never feel like you've been left to the wolves. Let's see, is there anything else that I should mention about the kind of overview of the...
So let me add this. So there's always going to be a time restriction on any of the meetings that we have. There's always more issues than the time allots. So we usually will focus on probably 2 to 3 issues and then speak to them accordingly, because you're going to hear about a lot of different issues and needs across the country. But we want to use the student's voice to emphasize some key pieces. Usually Pell is one of those. TRIO program funding is another one of those. Those are examples. And again, as Libby pointed out, those student voices carry a lot of weight with our lawmakers here in Southern Arizona especially.
The one other thing I'll mention at the beginning of that talking points document, I mentioned what we should thank them for. We have been incredibly lucky in the support that we've received from our congressional delegation. We've now gotten our 2nd federal appropriation, so that brings it to like about $2.5 million that we've gotten through that. Senator Sinema asked us to participate in a field hearing that she had about the aviation industry, and Pima was the only maintenance and repair training facility that she invited to participate in that. Greg Wilson was the person who actually did that. So there have been a lot of ways that they have supported us. Senator Kelly has introduced a bill that will provide grants for aviation. So it's just really important that when you're in there that you wax ecstatic and let them know what we're so grateful for. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joseph.
Great, thank you. Chair Riel, members of the board, my name is Joseph Mays, as Libby introduced me. I'm going on the trip with you, and so I had sort of 3 things I wanted to touch on here. One was to sort of give you an introduction to the students who are joining us, just tell you a little bit about them and why we picked them. And then I want to walk you a little bit through this binder and things to focus on, and then just sort of capstone many of the things that have been said already that are sort of big things we should keep in mind while we're on the trip. So talking about some of the students, the 3 students, we have 3 really talented Pima Community College students who are joining us, and they all bring sort of a very unique perspective of what Pima offers. And I think one of the main goals here, right, is to is to focus on the federal support that the college receives to help students like them succeed. And that's a big part of the message we want to bring. So the first student, her name is Melissa Ortiz, and she is a mother of 3 who came back to college after several years away raising her family. And she thought, she wanted to get some programming skills. She thought make herself more marketable. And along the way, she discovered a passion and a talent for cybersecurity. So she's currently working on her networking and cyber AAS here at Pima. And thanks to an HSI STEM grant, Melissa happens to be an employee of PCC as well. She serves as a data center specialist, and she also has been working to promote Hispanic and Latino cyber and technology community to achieve greater representation and help to found the Tucson chapter of Raíces Cyber, which is sort of an organization that does that to bring cyber awareness and technology to Latino and Hispanic community around the country. So the Tucson chapter is thanks to her work. The second student is Angelo Thomas, and he is an HVAC student in building and construction technologies here. He's a veteran, and he's a recipient of the Metallica Scholarship, which is a pretty cool thing Pima's been part of. And he's very well-spoken, really smart guy, very dynamic, and he's told us that after he completes his work here at Pima, he's planning to go on to NAU to do a degree in construction management, in which he wants to learn sort of management skills and bring that business back to Tucson to do some sustainable HVAC work, which doesn't currently, sort of new technologies that he wants to sort of train people and start a business here, which is pretty great. Our third student is Erica Monreal, who is completing her first year at PCC. And she's a low-income student who currently works at Amazon to support herself. Her family is all in Mexico, and so she is living with an uncle and supporting herself here. She's also a TRIO grant recipient, which is another important federal program. She is also incredibly motivated, ambitious, really, really dynamic and fun to listen to. She plans to go to law school and become an attorney, and she's very motivated. And all 3 of these students sort of are very different, but bring something really, really exciting to the table.
So if I could just interject, so we have, I think, all 3 of them are first-generation college students. We have a TRIO student, we have a veteran. One is, that stereotypical age for a college student, fresh out of high school, and then the other 2 are a little older. So we really do have a nice, diverse group.
Yes, so those are our students who, really put a face and a voice behind some of the things we do here at Pima and to sort of bring credit to the great work we're doing. So I want to walk you through some of the material that's here.
Just pause for a moment, Joseph. Not every college will be bringing students. So Pima is arguably one of the exceptions, not the rule. And so we have that to be proud of. You'll see other districts, but we've been consistent about involving students in the process. Some of our students, this may be the first time on an airplane. I'm not sure if that's the case with these, but we've had students in the past who've never been on a plane, and for many, never certainly been to Washington, D.C. So this is a big deal for many of them.
Thanks, yeah. They're very excited. We did a sort of Zoom call I did with them, and they're really excited about this trip, so it'll be great. So just walking through the tabs sort of on the right here, just to give you a quick synopsis of things. At the beginning, we put the itinerary as it currently stands. Tracy Tucker is in the process of setting up meetings, which is, herding cats in D.C. is a hard process to do. Elected officials, especially now, sort of a new term of Congress, they've only been there a few weeks, and they're still getting used to the rhythm of the new term, when are the hearing schedules, when are things going to happen, and so they're reluctant to set up meetings far in advance, and so Tracy told us that the offices are all sort of have committed to this week to giving her a time when they can solidify things. So this obviously will be getting updated as we go.
But don't be surprised if we have last-minute changes as something happens, they have to be on the floor to vote, or, you know, a sudden committee comes up, because that happens all the time. And of course, we try to rearrange the schedule so that we can still do it.
Right, and as Libby mentioned, you know, there's occasionally we'll have simultaneous meetings, and we can manage that as they come up. So that is sort of there. You'll see there's a lot of the things that are on the ACCT website. Yeah.
So could you be a little more specific? Keep it simple for me.
Sure.
What meetings do we want to be in attendance? Does it start with Monday at 8?
So yeah, I mean, Monday, a big chunk of Monday is the ACCT conference, and so Monday is sort of the biggest day for the conference, where it will be, you know, there'll be breakouts for different trustees, and as Libby mentioned, so some of it is sort of like helping trustees understand sort of a universal role that they do in different community colleges around the country, and so it's a way to sort of put heads together and strategize a national plan, or ways to manage the work that you do.
So let me add to that, because that first day, well, so Sunday is pre-conference day. So some of you, if not all of you, are signed up for a pre-conference, so that's self-contained as far as the schedule goes. Then we roll into Monday. I kind of recommend that you go to the open general sessions, so whether it's the breakfast one, whether it's the lunch one, et cetera. And then, I mean, there's some nice pieces around, say, like the 10 a.m., 11:30, you're going to get a sense of the community college priorities, which will help contextualize the pieces that Joseph is going to cover with you in terms of Pima. So kind of keep that in mind, and then when you roll into the afternoon on Monday, what you're going to see is there's these breakout different sessions, and that's when, you know, you can decide, does that work for you, or you want to go do something on your own. So you may have some flexibility there depending on how that lays out. Now, this is based on what we know right now. This can change when we get on the ground. So just being mindful about that. And then when we roll into Tuesday, Arizona is going to have its own special, unique set of events. So I think that involves breakfast, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so we'll get you the details around that. And then that's going to roll into, I think, all the way up to noon, and may involve lunch as well. We'll confirm that. And then now we get into the visits. Now, the visits are the primary. All this other stuff are secondary. So if we end up, for example, on Monday, that's the only time we can go in and see Representative Siscomani, then we're going on Monday morning, whether they got something going on here or not, because the whole reason for us to be there is to meet with the members, not for the conference. So just a little fluidity, willingness to just be agile and adaptive based on the schedule. But we will keep you all informed. Andrea is joining us as well, and so we'll keep you informed. Now, what we like to do is for all of us at the general sessions to sit together. So we all sit together, and so that way, you know, if something comes up, we can talk about it and so forth. We'll have a dinner one night together. And right now, we're setting that for Sunday. And normally I would do it on Monday night, but we have to do it Sunday because I got a phone call. I may have to return to Tucson early. And they're saying that they really need me to come back to Tucson early, but they won't tell me why at this point. So I thought, okay, we better just set it for Sunday, because at that dinner meeting, we go over with Tracy some of the particulars about what we may focus on. And so that's why that dinner, and then after that dinner meeting, any other dinner meetings, you're on your own, if you choose to do that. Now, I believe they also have a dinner meeting set, and we're paying for it, so kind of keep that in mind as far as participating on that. But again, we'll have a better idea of the schedule once we get on the ground. But this kind of gives you a flavor for it.
Part of it. Do we attend the new trustee academy on Sunday?
So, Andrea, who's set up for pre-conference? Okay, so the three of you who are new, you're all scheduled for a pre-conference. Now the question, are they all in the same one? Okay. Which one is? Okay. So, starting at 10, the new trustee academy, okay.
I don't know if you know this, Chancellor, but Juan Ciscowani was one of my students for 2 or 3 semesters in the early 90s. And so I'm going to email his office and just remind him.
One thing I will tell you that is new this year, so there is a group of the other community colleges that are coming as a group. We're still going to make our appointments individually, frankly, because we don't want Pima's voice to be lost in the crowd. So, but as much as we can, we'll try to participate in those group activities as long as it doesn't conflict with the appointments that we have with our members.
So I think the big takeaway here with the schedule is that this is sort of a rough draft, and there's stuff being put in place, and as we've heard from Libby and the Chancellor, we should all be prepared to be surprised at some point during the week. If we go to the next section, we can see that this is the document that the association provides to members. It's sort of the national priorities of the association, the shared priorities of all the community college trustees, and it also is in alignment with the American Association of Community Colleges. And so these are sort of their key areas that align with much of what we do here. And so this is something that we will make copies of and provide to congressional offices. And it's stuff that will, be sort of the stuff we're generally talking about, but we don't have to go through this sheet with members of Congress. They'll receive it and they'll be hearing it. They've heard it all many times. And so they'll be provided with that document. The next one, which is the one that says who we are, sort of at the top, Pima Community College, who we are. And this is after the tab PCC facts. And so this is another document that we will leave behind in congressional offices to members and their staff. And it's a lot of what this document is, it's sort of like ACCT priorities as they apply to our school. So it's some of the data around important facts specific to Pima related to things that ACCT cares about. The next document, PCC federal priorities. This one is sort of other things that are very important to Pima that that may not be embraced by the whole association. They're not being, that they're things that are important to our school, and we want to make sure that our delegation knows that they're priorities for Pima, and we're bringing them to their attention. This will also be a document that we will leave behind in congressional offices.
If I could add, note that we've indicated the maximum Pell Grant award that students at Pima have received, along with what the average award was. Because Pell is such a topic of conversation now, you might be asked that question, so it's listed here for your benefit.
And Pell is always sort of a very important thing. It's an important federal fund, and it's important for us to make sure we show that how much it does for students' need-based aid. So the next document is the, go ahead.
Sorry, Joseph. So I should know this, but Pell Grants are based on the student's need, correct? So the needier they are, the higher the dollar amount that they would be awarded?
That's right. So Pell Grants, there is a sort of it's based on family income, based on family size, stuff like that, but it sort of, there's a certain income level where you become partially eligible, and that eligibility rate goes up until your income is such that you are fully eligible for the full Pell for everybody else.
And you'll note that one of our priorities, besides expanding Pell, is to get, to end the taxation of Pell grants so that they don't have to pay income tax on that. We talk about it a little here, and we talk about it a lot in the talking points document, so that, you know, because that then gives them full access to the financial assistance that they've received.
That becomes a bigger complexity for community colleges because at a larger school where you can have a fungibility of where if you're going to a university and your bill is $20,000 for everything that is cost of attendance, you can sort of shift the place where you spent your Pell into places, where it won't necessarily be taxable. But for schools like the community college, that becomes a taxability issue.
So let me just add on top of that. So one of the things you might hear is this whole notion of the Promise program. And so the Promise program is essentially another way to say it's free tuition. And in the state of Arizona, we do offer a College Promise program. However, it's a last dollar program, meaning you have to use your Pell first, and then you get access to that last dollar program. The challenge for community colleges is Pell usually covers your tuition with a little extra left over, so our students don't get access to the College Promise program in the state of Arizona. That's actually benefiting the university students, not community college students. So I want you to know that. One thing, our nuance to that is we're trying to argue that it should be a first dollar program, not a last dollar program. Because if it's first dollar, then it goes back to what Joseph is saying, and that is now you can use Pell after you use that. So that's right. So just understand that nuance, but you may hear this dialogue with that. This is a very big piece of equation.
So I think through this document, there's lots of information. I will point you just to the last page of that section. At the very bottom, there's just a paragraph there that is an important thing that we want our delegation to know, that not just that we're doing, we're a community college that's educating the workforce, all those are important, but also that Pima Community College is a reference for policymakers as an expert. And so that's a point I think we want to drive home as well. In the next section, I think Libby mentioned, this is the one, if you're pressed for time and you only have time to review one section of this binder, this is the one you should spend your time on. And it's the one that says, the tab says talking points, and at the top of it says info and talking points for board members. This is an internal document, so this is not something we'll distribute to members of Congress, but this is information for you that will sort of help you, maybe expand on some of the things we'll be discussing here, so that you can contextualize it for us here at Pima and how it's working. So some of the things we've already been talking about the taxation of Pell is in here, and other pieces of legislation that are moving. I'll point you also to the last page of this document. We found out a couple of days ago from Tracy that Virginia Fox, who's the new chair of the House Education Committee, is introducing this Pell Act bill, which is awarding money for short, sort of I'm struggling with my concept. Short, thank you.
So one of the pieces that the community colleges have been advocating for is being able to use Pell money for short-term programs. primarily those programs are career tech ed type programs that lead to job placements. And so the majority party now has a different view on it than the majority party last session's view on it. So there'll be certain nuances about it but we, as community colleges and Pima specifically, we have been a proponent for short-term Pell. But the way this new bill is laid out, there are some issues that we have about the way it's structured. It'll be different than how the Senate's version will look. But just to let you know that conceptually, we like the idea, but when you get into the details of it, we don't like so much some of the verbiage that's in there.
So from just a quick policy sweep, the idea is that, right now, Pell is not eligible for those kinds of programs, and it really should be, and that's a really important part of the workforce training that we're providing for people who need, employers who need people quickly, right? They're telling us they want these people trained in these ways, and right now, we can't use those Pell dollars to train people for real jobs that are on the ground, right, in front of us. And so that is one of the weaknesses here. And I will just say that one of the problems we have with this bill is that there's a lot tied to this availability of funds. There's several things that we're struggling with, but one of the big things is tied to it is a very onerous reporting requirement, some of which we wouldn't even be able to do, about placement and what does placement mean, and
Job
income.
where they've gone to work afterwards, that's really a tough nut for us to crack. It's something we are already trying to do just so we have that kind of data, and it's very hard to get that information. The other thing you'll see that it references.
So what is their motivation behind this modification? What?
I would say that they've probably been hearing for many years that community colleges are interested in this, and others are interested in these kinds of eligibility for Pell. And I can't speak for the authors, but I would say that they're putting in things that say, how can we measure that it is being in this document where they describe the bill, they say ways to measure that it's actually effective. So that's the motivation they're claiming, is that they're looking for measures of efficacy. We're going to dedicate new funds. We want to see that those funds are having outcomes, right?
And Representative Fox, who's the chair of this committee, is all about accountability. That is her mantra.
But that's hard to argue against.
Right.
So why not the short term? Is what I'm asking.
Okay, so there's two facets. Well, I'll just use these two facets. So there's the for-profits, career training programs, and so that has been a sticking point for the public sector versus the private sector. And so in the past, that has become a barrier to passing this legislation because the majority party in the White House has a different view than the majority party in the House. So then the House, now that it's constructed differently, are placing more of these accountability measures on all of us as a way to probably demonstrate that this isn't just to help it's like we're going to also require the private sector folks to step up. So that's just me reading between the lines. I could be wrong. And then I think another piece is the universities are not so happy about this because the university, their business model isn't based on a CTE framework, and so not based on these shorter term certificates. So they're concerned about this legislation as well, not just about the details of the one that we have here in front of you, but in the total concept to begin with. So that's where the pushback comes from, is from the university sector primarily.
You'll hear the term clock hours a lot, and many community colleges are moving from a clock hour in other words, how many hours a student's in the seat, to credit hours, because they had different reporting structures, and the clock hour reporting structure was very onerous. At least that's what our workforce folks tell us. So it's much easier, instead of having to have two systems for tracking those and reporting on those, it's easier to just have them all be credit hours. So that's one reason, and there is a lot of emphasis on clock hour in much of the legislation, and so we want to make sure that credit hours gets equal, accessibility.
So let me use a program to illustrate this for a moment. And this program also highlights why we have an issue with this law as it currently is constructed. So our truck driver program, commercial driver's license, CDL, you'll hear it referred to as CDL. It's a little longer term than what this bill is contemplating. So arguably under this bill, it's not eligible. However, it's also not eligible under the current Pell structure because it's not a full-time program as well, because you come in like 8 or 9 weeks, you're qualified for your CDL, you pass your CDL, now you can go drive for Walmart or any one of those, and then depending who you go drive for, you're already making a family sustainable wage. Those students typically have to borrow to get into the program, or hopefully they can get an employer sponsor to allow them in the program. So why we've been pushing for short-term Pell is let's pay for students to go through that, as opposed to putting up a barrier where they have to go borrow in order to get in a program that can get them into a livable wage fairly quickly. But this law now doesn't help with that. So that's a classic example of how we have to help Congress understand those nuances, and hopefully they'll recalibrate based on it.
I would think that's an excellent example to use, because if anything, they should be pro-business and want to move the economy along, and we need truck drivers to do that. So I would say that's a great example.
Just as an aside, truck driver in, I think, over half of the states in the country is the single largest employer of males. So the impact is significant.
Okay, so the other 3 tabs in here are, just stuff for your information. We have member bios, so the members of Congress from the Arizona delegation that we're meeting with. It tells you a little bit about them, and some facts that help, I think, as...
If I can mention, you'll notice that we have Congressman Stanton listed. He is not a Pima County member of Congress, but he's the former mayor of Phoenix. He knows Pima and loves us. And so we always like to visit him and, reinforce what we're doing, because he's very interested in the college's success.
And as the chair mentioned earlier, Juan Ciscomani, the newest member of our delegation, is a graduate of Pima Community College, attendee. The last 2 things here are just daily reporting for the fall and spring semesters. So that's just to give you more data, more information. Yeah. Let's see. So once again, I think I just had a couple of takeaways. Is once again, if you want to review anything, the talking points document is the best one to spend some time on. That's sort of the big things, the big takeaways, and I think that'll help you through. As Libby mentioned at the top, Tracy Tucker will be joining us. She'll help us with our visits. She'll help us get around and modify our plans as needed. She'll be there to put out the fires that we have. And she is very well respected in DC. Finally, I just wanted to emphasize once again the importance of our students' voices in these meetings in the offices. The students have a huge impact on elected officials and their staff, and hearing the on-the-ground impact that their resources are doing and that the school is doing here at Pima are just really valuable for members of Congress. So making sure when we have our visits, we give the students that time to sort of share some of their story and their experience there is really valuable.
It'd be a big help for me if you would text me as soon as you make an appointment, so that we don't have to go to a huddle to find out we changed our schedule. So if you don't have my number, I'll be happy to give it to you.
Andre will make sure we have everybody's number, and so that way, we can text each other if we need to.
That would be very helpful. And the second is, what do we look like? Do we all go to the same appointment? Are we doing a little quail run down the hallway and then going in the doors?
Most of the time, it'll be a little quail run, but in a few instances, they're small offices, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 folks, 12 if you count Tracy. We have 12 people in our entourage, so we may have to divide and conquer. Or it could just simply be because 2 of the members could only see us at exactly the same time, and then we have to split up. I should mention, I probably don't need to say it to you folks, but we felt we needed to say it to the students. When we do those visits to Congress, it is appropriate to be dressed professionally and to make a good impression.
What does that look like?
Neckties for guys.
But it doesn't have to be color coordinated.
That's right.
It's color coordinated. So
That's not business casual.
In DC, it might be.
But I'm of the mind, dress the way you feel best. And because it's going to be not about the way you dress, it's about the message that we're communicating. And I think for us not to lose sight of that. The other thing, so when we walk in the room, usually what happens is, I'll use a sports analogy if that's okay. I usually will quarterback the meeting, meaning I will call on one of you, all of you, to say a few words. So I'll say, Teresa, why don't you just share from your perspective your thoughts on Pell Grants. And so you'll do like a 30-second, 1-minute thing, and then we'll have the student talk about their experience. So we'll probably assign each of you an area, and so how we've determined that in the past is each board member will say, this is an area of interest that I have, that I really want to talk about. So we try to integrate that into the messaging that we want to do. And then I'll just make sure that I, say to the congressperson or the senator that I'll try to find out how much time we have, because that affects how many of us can speak and how quickly we have to speak. And then I'll just call on each of you based on what we've kind of have a sense of. And then as they've said, we may have to split up because some meetings will conflict with each other. Maybe there's time from a schedule standpoint, but from a geography standpoint, there's no way for you to get from one part to the other part in that 30 minutes, because we have to go through the whole security check lines, et cetera. So we'll split up. So I may not always be in every meeting. And so if I take one group, then Joseph will take another group. And if I have to return back here, then Joseph will take one group, and then Tracy will take another group. So you never have to feel like you're on your own. We'll make sure that someone's there to help guide the process. And so, but please, when you look at the materials, let us know if there's a particular topical area that you have a special interest in. That way we can help make sure that we facilitate that as part of the conversation. If you're just completely open, that's fine too. Usually Representative Grijalva is the most generous in time. Just so you know that. We can go in sometimes with Senator Sinema if she's there. Sometimes it'll rush us into a room, take a bunch of pictures, and then rush us out of the room. So it can ebb and flow. And then every now and then, and we've done this with Senator McSally, where she came to one of our dinner meetings, and that was our meeting with her. So it ebbs and flows depending on the situation. So your flexibility, and willingness to be agile will help a lot. But if it conflicts with something you have scheduled out there, then just let us know. Again, we're adaptable.
One just thing to add to that is we do have a couple of places where we're doing these Hill receptions, and that can be a really good opportunity, because in the office we really are sort of it's very time sensitive, and we have to get through what we want to share, pretty succinctly. When they do these little receptions, if we get a chance to do those and members from our delegation come, it's an opportunity to be, or their staff, it's an opportunity to sort of have a conversation and get some of the stuff you might not be able to get out quickly in that conversation too. Okay.
That's why Andrea is with us. She'll keep us all in line.
Any questions? So I want to conclude by telling you a fun story. I think it was 4 years ago when I went, and we had 2 students that year, and we're in the House office building, and we're walking down the hall, and there's this one door that is quite a bit fancier than the other doors, and it has pillars to the side and an eagle statue outside, and the students are saying, "Oh my goodness, whose office is that?" Well, it was Nancy Pelosi's. And I'll be darned, they're standing there taking pictures when she comes out of the office and says, "Who are these people?" And so we told her, and she stopped and posed and let them take pictures with her. And then we had a private tour, behind the scenes tour of the Capitol. And when we went into the Senate, I think it was, they were debating some bill about sanctioning I'm not sure if it was Iraq or Iran, but one of the Middle East countries, about sanctioning it. So we got to watch that. I mean, it's history being made. It was really exciting. So, yeah.
Madam Chair, if we can transition to the next topic, the last topic, and this is about the board's professional development. And we thought we'd just have a conversation so you know what the landscape looks like for the year. This is many of the pieces that we know about. There may be something that we don't. And really part of the conversation is how do you want to manage all of this? Do you want to make some decisions about that everybody should go to every one of these, or should be a subset? We can certainly help provide perspective on that. So for example, I would always suggest that we go to the ACCT events, because that's your trade association, like we're going next week, and they do two big meetings a year. Then everything else I would suggest is more, think as optional. It's maybe good to go, but you don't have to go unless there's a particular area of focus. So like this year, Board Chair, that there's a GLI that's specific to the CEO and chair relationship. And so going to that might be beneficial for the college and for us. And then I think because we're going to be going into the Higher Learning Commission process here, that it probably doesn't hurt, especially for new board members, to just go and have at least one experience with the conference. You don't necessarily have to be there for the whole conference, but just to go for a day or two is not a bad idea. You get a feel for what this whole accreditation thing is all about. Now Saturday, typically at the HLC event, is a president's track, and that's where trustees will join the CEO on that. It's not earth-shattering if you miss it. If you make the next day, a lot of things get repeated. We get the kind of the thumbnail on Saturday, and the conference hits you with the bigger pieces. So what helps us to know is what you're interested in. And then you do have a budget that's allocated for board travel, and we try to keep you within that budget. If everybody wanted to go to everything, that could put pressure on the budget. So just let us know.
So Andrea will be sending us these things along the way. For me, it would be very helpful to have input from you as to what would benefit the college on paper with HLC, so we can check the boxes that need to be checked. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, if I need to go to help the college, I'll go. If it doesn't help the college, I don't need to go.
And that's why I come back to the ACCT pieces are like, most definitely go to that. And then this year, I would just go to the HLC because this is your first time for the three of you to been exposed to that in a board role. And then after that, I think there's a lot of flexibility from there, other than the GLI with the chair and CEO relationship. And it probably doesn't hurt, Wade, that you attend as the vice chair, because if something were to happen to Teresa, then it's good that you're ready to step in. If you want to. I mean, it's not critical that you go, but it doesn't hurt either. There you go.
You know, there's a lot that has been presented as far as all of these trips. And up to this point, I've said yes, because I assumed that I wouldn't have been asked to go if it wasn't important for the college. But will you like put an asterisk on things that, you know, if you're interested, but we don't really, we don't want to wait. I don't personally want to waste any money traveling or time if it isn't something that we don't think would really benefit us in our professional growth to go to.
No, and I think we'll factor that into the equation, and if ever you're in doubt, just ask us. I mean, arguably, right, not everybody, after you do this one time around on the legislative piece, you may not want to go again. I think that's okay if you decide, well, you know, I've done the DC thing, I don't need to go always, but I think as long as we have at least one of you going, right? And then, but if no one wants to go, I think that probably doesn't send the right kind of message either. Okay, but I will discuss that with you, because being in the chair role, then you help to kind of work the flow with your other colleagues. And then there's some things that aren't on here. You know, we've asked you, because you're in the chair role, to join us at the Bellwether, because that does help the college, because I think it puts on a positive face that from the board to in the case chancellor are supportive of the programs that are up for this, you know, prestigious recognition. And so that's why we invite. Now, is it absolutely that you need to go? No. But does it help with our pitch? Absolutely. More from a commitment level, not so much from what you might say. So we may only give you, say, a 1-minute part in all of that, but the fact that you're there communicates a message to the group as well. Now there's logistical issues. I don't know, do you want to talk about it, or you want me to kind of talk about the logistical issues about board travel? So you have a copy of the board policy. I'll just repeat it because I know that the audience can't hear it. So Andrea's saying you've all received a copy of the board policy. It kind of helps you understand what you can be reimbursed for and what you can't be reimbursed for. Most things you can be reimbursed for, as long as you stay within the per diem limit. So if you decide to go have a nice fancy dinner, and that for that region, you know, the state only covers $50, but you spent $100, then you just have to pay that difference. And then if you're bringing along a spouse, a partner, then typically, well, they would have to cover their own expense. Now, there's some limits on parking. So we, in Arizona, for example, here in Tucson, we're only going to cover $5 of your parking at the airport. Some of the lots are a little more expensive to that. I think Dave, we need to revisit. Is he still here? He's gone. Okay. I think we need to revisit some of that because of inflation and so forth. But right now, that's how it's kind of set for. But that kind of gives you the parameters. Now, when we go to special dinners, like when we all travel together, I'm with you, I'll take us all out one night to dinner, and then I will cover that dinner except for the drinks. So alcohol is on your own, but I'll cover that piece of it. But we'll repeat these kinds of things when we're, on the road together. And then depending on the nature of the dinner, you can bring your spouse, your partner, except for when we say, well, this is a working dinner. So the DC dinner is a working dinner, so that's where we would not invite your partner or your spouse to that dinner. And then there's other considerations, and I'll use DC as another example. For us to bring more than a certain number of individuals, it elevates it to a whole new level of bureaucracy that we have to go through with the restaurant. So sometimes we're like, okay, we don't want to go through that, and so we keep the number below the bureaucratic levels with the restaurant, and that would limit, bringing a guest. But I'll always have Andrea let you know those parameters. So you don't have to remember any of what I just said, but she'll let you know.
So this is a question about our travel cards. I had one before when I was an employee, but I don't ever remember using it, and I don't ever remember paying attention to the bills. Are we responsible? I know we're responsible for what we spend on the card, but is it one of our monthly things that we're going to have to make sure that all of our items match to what we purchased?
It's the smaller things that are hard to keep track of, like if you pay for parking, take a taxi cab or Uber. Those are the ones, those little pieces that are hard for us to track, but everything else we're able to track for you. And as Andrea said, she'll just take care of it for you. So when you go in and check into the hotel, we'll get that hotel bill, and so you don't have to worry about that. We'll take care of that on your expense account, as long as you use the college card. If you use a private card, then we would need you to make sure you bring in the receipts and everything, and we can cross-reference it back to your private card. But generally, if you use the college's card, then I would not worry about it. And because we use a per diem system, then we're not getting into, well, how much did you spend for breakfast? How much did you spend for lunch? How much did you spend for dinner? Because it's just per diem. Does that cover what you'd like to say? Okay. Madam Chair, we're done with this piece unless you have more questions.
Okay, any other comments? This meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.